Begin. We're going to start on Ayin Tes Amud Beis 79b at the Mishnah. Okay, that's some Mishnayos before. Actually, very relevant to this, and some Gemaras that are going to seem repetitive. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Source of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We had cases, for example, of sacrifices that got mixed with other animals that weren't eligible to be sacrifices. What to do? They wouldn't be nullified because they were entire sacrifices. Then we had limbs that got mixed with other limbs that weren't eligible to be brought. For example, they were limbs of a balmum. So we had the opinion of Rebbe Lezer that says one of them that was brought, if one of them was brought by mistake, you weren't supposed to bring any. One of them was brought, then the rest of them you could bring because we assume that was the one that was brought. And the Chum say, no, we don't do that. We don't say that. Then we had if the blood got mixed with water, or the blood got mixed with wine. So we had to imagine that maybe it was that the wine was really water, and to see if it would still have an appearance of blood. Yehuda told us that blood and blood is never nullified, and then we had if it gets mixed in with dam psulim, then we had or dam tamtis, we had a machlekes with Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says that it's kosher, and the Chachamim said that it's not. We had a discussion about if we make a gzeira in the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah. Anyway, now the Mishnah starts. Dam tmimim bedam balim mumim. We had this before by Eivarim, by limbs. Now we have the blood of acceptable animals, acceptable sacrifices, gets mixed in with blood of balim mumim, of unacceptable sacrifices. So the rule is, yishafich lama, you pour it down the drain. Rashi explains, there's a gzeira that maybe you won't have enough of the kosher blood. Maybe if you allow this, because Bali Mumin, it's possible for Bali Mumin to be in the temple, there's a gzeira here. It's actually interesting because the previous Gemara had a machlekes between Rav Papa and Rav Zvid. What's really the machlekes in the previous Mishnah? Previous Mishnah we had Nisarav b'dam psulim. What was a dam psulim? That was if an animal, a sin was committed with the animal, or it was slaughtered chutz l'smana or chutz l'kaimeh. So the animal was invalid. Yes, the wrong intention by the sacrifice. So there we said you pour it down the drain. What do we say here? Pour it down the drain. However, it comes along the next part of the Mishnah and says bedam tamtzis. If it gets mixed in with dam tamtzis, it says again you pour it down the drain. Dam tamtzis means the remaining blood of the animal that oozes out afterwards. And however, Rabbi Lezer allows it. Rabbi Lezer says kosher. What happens here? Yeah. What happens here? You have a blood from a kosher animal that gets mixed with the blood of a non-kosher animal, with not a kosher, I should say, with an unblemished animal mixed with the blood of a blemished animal. It says yishafech lama, which is exactly what we said over there. Where's Rabbi Lezer? No Rabbi Lezer here. Rabbi Lezer is in the next case, but not in this case. Why is there no Rabbi Lezer here? So we had before a machlekes if Rabbi Lezer is actually arguing on these cases. Because the Mishnah before, the previous Gemara, what we finished off yesterday, was an opinion of Rav Zvid, that the two cases of Dam Psulim and Dam Tamtzis, Rabbi Lezer argues on both of them. The opinion of Rav Papa, where Rabbi Lezer only argues on the second case. L'cher, our Mishnah is going to be a raya to Rav Zvid. Anyway, okay, let's leave it at that. I mean, it's because otherwise Rabbi Lezer should be arguing. Anyway, case b'case is the next case. Let's say it didn't get mixed in in a liquid mixture. Liquid mixture means that everything blends together. That's not what's happening. It's not a liquid mixture. It's a dry mixture, a dry mixture of liquids. It means that I had a cup of blood that's confused with another cup of blood. Not that they mixed. They didn't mix. They're mixed in the head. They're confused which one is which. Not that they mixed together. So this is called the tarubis yavish biyavish. It's a dry mixture of containers of blood. Right? Dry mixture means that it's a mixture where you don't know which one it is. It doesn't mean that it's mixed. You're mixed. Right? You don't know where it is. The first case was that two bloods mixed. So kais b'kaisis. If you don't know which cup is which, Rabbi Lezer says, "Mkarav kais echad yikrav kol kaisis." If one cup, the applications of blood were made from one cup, then you're allowed to make applications from the other ones, because we would say that the one that was offered was probably the bad one. Now all the rest are good. That was Rabbi Lezer's opinion when it came to the limbs. If the head was brought, you could bring all the other heads, bring all the other limbs. Yeah, we said that before. Chachamim Maimrim, the Chacham say, "Afilu karvu kol and chutz mi'echad mem yishafech la'ama." Chacham say no. Even if all of them applications were made except for one, the last one still has to be poured out, because we would say that the last one is the one that's no good. That's the opinion of the Chacham, like we had before when it came to the limbs. What happens if blood that's supposed to go below the red line, below the equator, right, went above? Not went above. If it goes above the animal's puzzle, right, the sacrifice is invalid. It's not acceptable. But let's say it got mixed in with blood that's supposed to go above. Blood from below got mixed in with blood that's supposed to go above. For example, blood that's supposed to go below would be an oilas behema. Blood that's supposed to go above would be a chatas behema. A burnt offering animal goes below, and a sin offering animal goes above. And the two bloods got mixed together. Rabbi Lezer Aimer yitin l'mayla. Rabbi Lezer says you put it above. Yeah. Thank you. Rabbi Lezer says that you put it above the line. There's a problem. You're not supposed to put the blood from below above the line. So we say, oh, don't worry about it. You have an intention that the blood that's supposed to go below the line that you're now putting above, you say that's just water. I'm not putting it there as an application. I'm putting it there just as water.
This discussed before was without mixing.
Right.
First time we talk about this mix blood and wine.
We never had before that it was mixed together like this. Now the bloods are mixed together, and we're putting it above the line. What do you do with the other application? So it says, the second one, it says, and then you put an application below. Rashi spells it out. First of all, he says that you always bring the one above first, the blood that's going above first. Whenever there's a chatas and an oila, you bring the chatas first. And I think the Alter Rebbe mentions this also, that you have to first get rid of the sin before you can give your gift. First, you have to resolve and I think the Alter Rebbe mentions this in the Gersa Tshuva. Oh, okay. And then what you do is you do the application below, and that's going to satisfy the shvichas shirayim. The remainder of the blood was supposed to get poured below. So the one that's supposed to go above has no problem putting it below, because you have to pour the remainder below. So you did above, and then the rest you pour below. right? It's perfect. You have to put below. Now below is on the foundation, but over here we're putting it against the wall, which is acceptable as well. The main thing is that it's below the line. So if you notice in the Mishnah it says Rebbe Lezer yitin l'mayla, you put it above. But I have to imagine that the water that the blood that's supposed to go below, that's now going above, is just water. So don't worry about that. It's just water. And then I put it below. He doesn't have to say that it's that I view it like water. It says because the one that's supposed to go above is actually supposed to go below as well. It's called shirayim, the remainder. The remainder is supposed to go below. So everything is set perfectly there. The Chachamim say you have to pour it all down the drain. Then it's going to be kosher. If you didn't ask the what the halacha is and you just went ahead and you did it, then it's going to be kosher. It's going to be acceptable. Because the application was made above, and that's fine. And which one is kosher? The one that went above is going to be kosher. The one that from below is not going to be kosher, because that's not allowed to go above. It invalidated it when you put it above. I guess he doesn't have the rayan. The chachamim don't have the rayan that you just with your thoughts you make it into water. That's what it appears. Okay. Now we say Hanitanim on top of Daf Pei. Hanitanim b'matana achas shenesaver b'nitanim b'matana achas. Two types of sacrifices, the blood that's got mixed up. Both of the sacrifices have one application of blood. For example, a bachar is the firstborn animal. The blood is applied with one application on the altar, mixed up with a meiser, a tithe animal. Also, there's one application on the altar. There's no problem. It's easy. The solution is easy. I don't know which blood it is, but so what? You just put it. You do one application on the top of the on the altar, and you're good. But let's say the two animals that got the bloods of two animals got mixed up were meant to have four applications on the top. Now, four could mean two that are four. It doesn't have to mean four. It means so. What you do now, for example, what type of let's say it was an oila got mixed up with a shlamim. Has to be also both of them have to be below the line. Or else this would mess up this halat. Can't say an ayla with the chatas. The chatas is four applications of blood instead of two which are four. It's an ayla with the shlamim would be classic. So what are you going to do? You're not the manarbas. You do the two that are four applications, and you're good to go. Whichever one it is, you just do it twice, right, for each of these animals. Matan arba b'matan achas. Let's say you have one sacrifice that's supposed to have four applications, or two that are four. For example, an ayla got mixed in with a bachar. This is problematic. You're only supposed to do one application. So what do? You want to do one, or you want to do four? What are you going to do? So Rebbe Lezer, nasnim b'matan arba. Rebbe Lezer says, we had Rebbe Lezer's opinion before. He says, don't worry about this. Do it four times. What do you do with the remainder three that you weren't supposed to apply? Right? You're only supposed to apply, well, here it's two that are four. What do you do with the extra application? You say, you assume that it's water. You make it like it's water. That's not an application. It's just water you put on the altar. And Rebbe Lezer said that you're allowed to do that before. In your mind, you're allowed to say, if it's not supposed to be, then it's just water. Okay. Rabbi Shua says, you're not Tanachas, you do the other way. You just do one application. That's that you're supposed to have one application. What's the rule? Something that's supposed to have four applications, that you only did one, it's kosher. Unless it was a special sacrifice that goes inside the sanctuary, that's different. But all other sacrifices, typical sacrifices, once one application was done of the blood, the sacrifice is valid. Rabbi Shua says, why bother with the extra ones that are problematic, that maybe aren't necessary? Just do one. We have an interesting conversation between Rebbe Lezer and Rabbi Shua now. Rebbe Lezer is Rebbe Lezer ben Hurkanes, and he's a student of Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai. and Rabbi Yeshua is Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, also a student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. These were together with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai when he found dead when he was carried out of Jerusalem, with the Vespasian when it was surrounding the city. So Rabbi Eliezer is the one that was put in Cherem at a certain point. Yeah. So Rabbi Eliezer says to Amar Loi Rabbi Eliezer says to Rabbi Yeshua, there's a rule in the Torah that you're not allowed to do less, or you're not allowed to take away from the Torah law. The Torah says you're supposed to have 4 compartments of tefillin. You're not allowed to do 3. You need 4 tzitzis. You're not allowed to do 3, right? You can't take away from how many things in the lulav, or you can't add to it. So anyway, there's 2 rules. This one is baltigra, one is baltaisif. Baltigra means to take away from what the Torah says. Rabbi Lezer says if you're going to do less than 4, you're going to be violating baltigra. Rabbi Yeshua responds back, according to you, you're only supposed to do 1. You're adding to the Torah. You can't do more than that. Rabbi Lezer says, that would only be when it was alone and you're doing this. But here you're doing it because you have the other blood that's mixed in that's supposed to be applied. Rabbi Yeshua says, that's a good answer. You only say that it's retracted, it's taking away from the Torah, detracting from what the Torah says, only if it's alone. Same answer that you gave for yourself, you could use for me. Rabbi Yeshua has a last licks. He says like this: when you do the extra ones of Artal Baltaisif, you violate Baltaisif of doing extra, and you also did an action. But if you don't do it, then Avartal Baltigra Valayasisa Maisa Biadecha. You violate Baltigra, fine, but you didn't do an action. And you know that when it comes to questions, there's a rule that always, if there's something's in question, better not to do than to do. Less action is better. We see this in it's called Sheval Tasa Adif. Better not to do the action, and that would be safer. Safer not to do. Right? Like for example, the sages are able to take away something that the Torah says b'sheval tasa by telling you not to do it. They can't tell you to violate the Torah. They can tell you don't do something, and right. So Rabbi Yeshua is suggesting that the better solution of this would be not to do the extra ones. Talking about blood that got mixed in from a 4 application to a 1 application. Rabbi Yeshua is suggesting that you do 1 instead of 4. Okay. Maybe. Okay. Amar Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar is not Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Lazar is Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. He's a friend, student of Rabbi Yochanan. He's in the days of Amiraim. His comments on what Rabbi Eliezer said, and we had this before. So it looks, if you remember this Gemara, it's not from 7 years ago. It's from a few days ago. We had the same Gemara. Amar Rabbi Lazar lehichshir Rabbi Eliezer l'shnayim shnayim. Rabbi Lazar says that when does Rabbi Eliezer say we're talking about that if this cup got mixed up with that cup, and one of them was already, we mixed up the cups, we confused them, and one of them the applications were made. So Rabbi Eliezer says, one of them was made, then you can already do the other ones because we're going to assume that the bad one was already offered and the rest of them are good, right? So Rabbi Eliezer comes along and says that the only way that Rabbi Eliezer would allow this is if there's 2 cups here that are, one of them is definitely eligible. And what we said was, the logic was migu. Just as one of them is eligible, so too the other one gets pulled along, gets schlepped along, gets like grandfathered in with the other one. Which one is which, we don't know. But we know that one of them is supposed to be applied to the altar. And so, Shnaim Stein. But if there was only one cup, with one cup, and one of them was offered, the other one would say, maybe that's actually the bad one. We wouldn't offer it. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says about Rabbi Lazar. I'm sorry, Rabbi Lazar says about Rabbi Lazar.
After one was poured, then you only have one left.
If you only had one left, Rabbi Lazar says Rabbi Eliezer would not agree to apply that one. Masiv Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi has a question. Last time it was Rabbi Yirmiyah. Here it's Rav Dimi. It says, V'chachamim maimrim. It might have been a Rabbi Yaakov over there. We had a confusion in the Girsa in the last Gemara a few pages ago. Rav Dimi asked the question, Chachamim maimrim fil karbakul chutz miach miyashapich lama. The Chachamim argue on Rabbi Eliezer, and they say that even if all of them were brought, all of the cups were applied. They were all the applications of blood were done except for one. The last one, you pour it down the drain. He's arguing on Rabbi Eliezer. The sages are arguing on Rabbi Eliezer. Eliezer would say that you for sure offer the last one. Now the problem here is that according to Rabbi Eliezer would agree to the Chachamim because there's only one left, and Rabbi Eliezer only allows if there's two that's left. So what are you saying? The Chacham's opinion, as if that's an arguing on Rabbi Eliezer, where according to Rabbi Eliezer would have agreed to that. So Amalei Rabbi Yaakov, the Rabbi Yirmiyah. Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah, maybe Rabbi Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah about Tachlifa. That could be a pshat, or the pshat could be Rabbi Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Bar Tachlifa, son of Tachlifa. That's his what he calls him, right? Ben Amram, right? He calls him by his father's name. Azbrelach. Let me explain it to you. My echad zug echad. And the Chachamim say that even if there's only one left, that you still pour it down the drain. They didn't mean only one; they meant one pair. Oh, one pair. Then Rabbi Eliezer would argue on that. Rabbi Eliezer would say that you can offer it exactly the same teretz that we had before. B'tzricha. That's how the Gersois knew last Gemara to add in Rabbi Yaakov. Over there it didn't say Rabbi Yaakov, but here it says Rabbi Yaakov. So that's why the Gersa, they're trying to match the conversation. Now the Gemara is wondering why we need to have the same machlekes by the limbs and the same machlekes as the blood. The last time we had this discussion, it was when the limbs got mixed up, and we were offering it up on the altar. Now we're saying that if the blood gets mixed up, we're offering it up on the altar. So why do we have the same machlekes twice? So tzricha, Gemara says it's necessary to have the same machlekes. If the Rebbe Lezer and the Chum would only argue about the limbs that got mixed up, Bakam Rebbe Lezer over there, Rebbe Lezer would say that once one was brought, Mishum Disavid Bekaprasa, because the fact is the blood was already applied. So the main part of the sacrifice was already done. This is just secondary. So the blood wasn't mixed up over there, the blood was applied properly. The rest of the sacrifice, okay, it's already kosher, let's bring it up. Aval Baha. But in this case, where the blood itself, the main part of the sacrifice, is already confused, the Rebbe Lezer may agree to the rabbis and say that, no, you're right, we should probably pour it down the drain because we don't even know if anything here is done correctly. Because even the main kapara of the sacrifice is already confused. Be it marbaha, and if it would only say about the blood that there's a machlekes, it wouldn't tell me about the limbs, then I would say by the blood that you have to pour it down the drain because you can't do the main kapara in a way where there's already a problem. Aval baha, but if the question would come up by the limbs and we didn't know that there was a machlekes, then I would say I would say that they would agree to Rabbi Lezer that by the limbs, once the blood was brought, maybe they would agree to Rabbi Lezer that okay, it's just the limbs. The main part of the sacrifice is already done. Over here, you could just bring it up and assume that everything is good, because the rest of the sacrifice was kosher. So tzricha, we have to have the machlekes by both. Tell us that the machlekes is actually by both. But only when it said one, I would think that by the other one they agreed. Who agreed to who? Whichever one agreed to the other one, depending on which one was more logical. Okay. Following Gemara. The Geshmaka Gemara. It's a real classic Gemara, but it takes a little bit of concentration. This is something special, this Gemara. Okay, Tanan Hassam. We learned in a Mishnah. Where's this Mishnah? This is in Perek Tes. It says, if you have a jug of the water of the paraduma, that regular water fell into it. The water of the paraduma is supposed to be is you're supposed to have the water in the vessel, and then you put the ashes on top, and then you mix it. Here, I had already mixed water, and then some extra water fell in. A small amount of water fell in. So now there's someone that's tamei, and you want to sprinkle the water. Problem is that when you sprinkle the water, what would they use to sprinkle? They would use the azav, right? They would dip the azav in and sprinkle it. They would dip his finger. I think they would dip the azav in. Dip the azav and sprinkle. Or maybe the azav was only there for the... I think the azav was there for the sprinkling. Anyway, yeah, they have to sprinkle the water. So Reb Lezer Aimer Yazish Te Hazais. Lezer says that let the kohen sprinkle twice. This is Reb Lezer's view. Sprinkles twice. Then the problem is the first time, maybe when he sprinkles, he's going to get the wrong water, right? So he has to sprinkle another time to make sure he got the right water, because the other water mixed in, which wasn't eligible. The Chum say, you're done. Can't use this. Puzzle. What do you mean there's no bittul?
It either works or it doesn't. How is it going to work? It doesn't work the first time and then works the second time? Or how is doing it twice going to solve the problem?
Well, let's just assume that Rebbe Lezer, the Gemara is going to get into this. But let's assume that if the first sprinkling of the water, you got all the wrong water. So if you do it again, then you get the right water. Right? If you do it twice, it satisfies.
But when the water falls, either becomes part of water or it's the water like not
Oh, well, he's not viewing that like that. He's not viewing. Okay. The Gemara says, Bishleim Rabbanan. We get why the Rabbanan say puzzle. Because Sabri Yesh Bila. Okay, we got to get used to these terms over here. The first term is Yesh Bila. Bila means that when water falls into other water, it disperses evenly, spreads out evenly. Every droplet of water has all the droplets of water in it. Has each drop has exactly the same ratio. What's the scientific word for that? Is there a word?
Density.
What's it called?
Density.
Oh no, I was thinking that there's when things try to equilibrium.
Dispersion.
What's it called?
Dispersion.
Dispersion. Dispersion. Okay, yeah. So there's this equal dispersion in there. It spreads evenly. That's the translation of Yesh Bila, that everything spreads evenly. So the Rabbanan hold that everything spreads evenly. Okay. Now that's not enough, because if it spreads evenly, then okay, good. Then every droplet will have the kosher water in it. It says, however, they also hold hazat tzricha shir. They also hold, to mess this up, they say that there's something called a shir hazah, the measurement of sprinkling. That means the amount that gets attached to the dipping. There's a certain amount of water that needs to be sprinkled, and therefore, when you're going to dip it in, because there's this equal dispersion, you're not going to get the full amount. You don't have the shear of the hazah, of the sprinkling. And so what? So do it a few times, and then it will all add up. It says, Ve'im mitzdarfen hazos. They have to have a third opinion, is that you can't combine one sprinkling with another sprinkling to make a shear. Okay, so these three opinions that they have mess up this whole tzleiches, this whole jug of the sprinkling. You follow? The dispersion, you need a shear, and you can't combine. Okay, excellent. What does Rebbe Lezer hold? What Rebbe Lezer says that you can do it twice. If he would hold that you don't have equal dispersion, so then Maseches Zavachim Daf. What does it help if you sprinkle twice? Maya kamasi. Maybe both times you're just sprinkling plain water. How do you know that? How do you know they even got the acceptable water? Ella kasavar yesh bila. Rabbi Lezer has to hold. If he says twice would satisfy this sprinkling, he has to hold that there's an equal dispersion. Now, if he holds that you don't need a measurement, so then then why do you have to sprinkle twice? If he holds equal dispersion, which we're compelled to say because he says twice would work, he holds equal dispersion. So then, what does he hold about the shear? If he holds that you need a shear, if he holds that you don't need a shear, then why do you have to sprinkle twice? So he must hold that it needs a measurement. So now, which means the first sprinkling didn't work, so you have to do more. If he holds that you can't combine two sprinklings to get a shear, then why does it help to sprinkle twice? You're trying to combine it. It doesn't work to combine. And even if you say that it combines, how do you know in this dispersion that you actually got the measurement that you needed by sprinkling twice?
Well, it was only a little bit of water.
Oh, very good.
Very good. Tov meod.
So I'm Reish Lakish. Listen to Reish Lakish. We're gonna have a few answers here. But Reish Lakish starts off saying Le'olam yesh bila. You're right about this. Rabbi Lezer holds that there is equal dispersion. What was compelling us to say that? Because we said that sprinkling twice would satisfy the need. Otherwise, maybe you didn't get even in twice you didn't get it. So it has to be. We have to say yesh bila. We also have to hold that you need a measurement. However, our whole problem over here was maybe you didn't even get the shear from the the amount that got mixed one with the other was exactly a shear kosher, all right, kosher of water to sprinkle. It means already the mechatas together with the shear of puzzle. So therefore, if you sprinkle twice, then you for sure got it. Because you just sprinkled out all the water. And so you got you for sure got the right amount, which was what you had originally. Okay. Rashi adds in that if you had a lot of mechatas with just the small amount of puzzle water, then you for sure got it also. It doesn't have to be exactly the amount of mechatas. It only has to be the exact amount of puzzle of the puzzle amount. Because then when you sprinkle twice, then you of course got more than the puzzle amount.
Instead of like the water, in this case, falling into it, but what about contaminated water?
I don't know if it matters. Sure, it matters.
Before they had
We consider this impure. Yeah. But everything is impure, I think, for mechatas, I think. Okay, Rava has another test. That was Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says in Eretz Yisrael, Rava's in Bavel. Rava Amar Lo'ilam Yesh Bila. Really, Rabbi Lezer holds Yesh Bila, exactly like Rish Lakish said. Yesh Bila. What was compelling us to say that? Because why would sprinkling twice help? If maybe it didn't mix evenly, wasn't an equal dispersion, so then maybe you didn't even get the right one if you don't have equal dispersion. So obviously, so it has to be that it's equal dispersion. However, Rava says different than everyone else. Than Rish Lakish, he says vazayin tzrich a shear, but you don't need a shear. So now the kasha is, so why do you have to sprinkle twice? If he holds yesh bila, equal dispersion, then you sprinkled the first time, you already covered all your bases. You're good to go. It says the reason for this is the kansa the kansu rabbanan ki echid le'mishtarishlei. there's a knas, a penalty, that we don't want the person to gain anything, to profit. Mishtarish means to profit. Mishtarish, we don't want him to profit. I think the reason why mishtarish means profit is because mishtarish means to get rooted. We don't want him to do this regularly. We don't want him to do this regularly because there's a profit. What would he do? He'd mix in other water, and now he has two waters that he can sprinkle. We don't want him to do this. If he has to sprinkle it all out, he has to sprinkle the second one, the other drop out. They shouldn't be gaining from this by adding puzzle water.
So you double your income.
Right, double your income, right? Okay, so that was Rava's explanation over here, which means Rava's arguing on Rish Lakish about the opinion of Rabbi Lezer, if Hazah Tricha Shir. Both of them agree so far, Yesh Bila, but there's a Machlekes Rish Lakish and Rava regarding if you need a measurement. Rish Lakish says, yes, you need a measurement, and Rava says you don't need a measurement. Rav Ashi says that Ein Bila. It doesn't mix evenly. They don't have equal dispersion. However, Yazer Shtei Azos. But if you sprinkle twice, you're going to cover all of the bases over here because there was only a small amount that got mixed in. Yazer Shtei Azos. What's Rashi adds in extra words here that Rav Ashi says Mayim Kol Shehu Tanan. What's the Chaf Aleph? Kol Shehin. The smallest amount of water got mixed in, and he holds Ein Bila that it doesn't mix evenly. So Yazer Shtei Azois, if you sprinkle twice, then you'll cover your bases. Now, Rashi says that Rav Ashi holds like Rava, that holds that Hazah Ein Tricha Shir. You don't need a measurement. But he doesn't hold the Knas. If he would hold Yesh Bila, then you would cover it. But he doesn't hold the Yesh Bila. He holds Ein Bila. So therefore, the first time that you sprinkled, maybe you didn't get it. So you have to sprinkle a second time. How do you know you got it the second time? Because it was such a small amount of psulim that it would satisfy him. So he holds, according to Rav Ashi, he holds Ein Bila, and he also holds Hazah Ein Tricha Shir. You don't need a measurement. Once you hold you don't need a measurement, then there's no question about if it combines, because you don't need a measurement. You don't need any combination. Okay. Meisvei, that's a question.
If on that sprinkle, it's more regular water.
That's fine. Meisvei, Gemara has a question. The Gemara's first question starts off a question on Rish Lakish. Again, Rish Lakish said that it mixes evenly. You need a measurement, and measurements would combine. They would combine only. So how do you know that you got it over here? Because it was just the small amount that was mixed. It says 1 second. It says Rabbi Yomer. Rabbi says, according to Rabbi Lezer, this is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi explaining Rabbi Eliezer. It says Rabbi Lezer says that if you do 2 sprinklings, you covered all your bases. Hazah kol shemetahares, because Hazah in Tricha Shir. He says the smallest amount of sprinkling would work because Hazah doesn't need a measurement. You don't need a measurement. This is a clear contrast to Rish Lakish that says that it does need a measurement.
They have to hold the dispersion.
Now, yeah, he holds that there's so far we see a dispersion. Now, because why do we have to? Well, actually, it's not so clear. So why would 2 work if why 1 second? Why do you sprinkle twice if you don't need a shear? It's possible that the first time you didn't get it. How do you know the second time you got it? So we'll have to say that it was just a small amount.
Which one are we on now? Rabbi or
Rebbe. I'm doing the bottom of the page. Rebbe.
oh,
Rebbe,
okay.
according to Rebbe Lezer, Hazah kol shumateres, Hazah in Tzrichus, which clearly argues on Rish Lakish. Hillel, what are you saying?
He has to hold them because the water that he sprinkles.
Maybe it wasn't the right
Regular
one.
water, yeah.
So he sprinkles the second
You have
time.
the last paragraph of the English
And
article.
what if it's also the wrong water?
So if you sprinkle the second time, then you for sure got the second water. Like Rav Ashi explained, maybe.
Without
Yeah, it's possible. The kasha right now is only on Rish Lakish. Hazah, and now another thing that he says, Hazah mechza kosher, mechza pasel. Hazah is able to be partially kosher, partially pasel, because Hazah in Tzrichus. Kasha on Rish Lakish.
Does he
Vaitanya.
hold by Bila? That doesn't say whether he holds by
Oh,
Bila.
that we didn't clearly say, but that's coming up to next. This is Vaitanya. We also was taught in a brayso behedya. Clearly, the Shita Mekbesis takes out the word behedya. It says like this. It says by the blood that's applied to the altar. It says hanitanim lamaila, blood that's supposed to go above the line. For example, achatas shenesarva benitanim lamata, that got mixed with blood that goes below the line, like our Mishnah, right? Rabbi Lezer miyitin lamaila. Rabbi Lezer says that you put it above. What do you do? What about the water that wasn't supposed to go there? You can view it like I'm sorry. What do you do with the blood that wasn't supposed to go there? You view it like water. So vatachtainim alulai, and the lower one is satisfied. In other words, the oila that got mixed in gets satisfied. That's the way we understood it. 1 second. The amrit ein bila. So now it's a kasha on Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi said that it doesn't mix evenly. If you hold that it doesn't mix evenly, so amay alalai. Why is the application above the line satisfactory? Maybe maybe the blood that you put on top was only the wrong blood, and the blood that you put below is only the wrong blood, only the one from the supposed to go above. If you hold ein bila, notice Rabbi Eliezer that tells me about the mixture of the sprinkling of the water of the paraduma is the same Rabbi Eliezer that talks about the sprinkling of the blood on the altar. And over there he says you put once above, you put once below, and you're good. You put 4 times if you have to. But you put above and below, and then you're satisfied. The problem is, if according to Rav Ashi, where he says ein bila, it doesn't mix evenly, how do you know what you put above? You got the one from above, and below you got the one from below. Maybe you took exactly what could go wrong does go wrong. Maybe you got exactly the wrong one.
only for water, on liquids.
Yeah, that's what we're assuming here. Right. So the Gemara answers this question. What we're saying here is that the majority of the water was actually the majority of the blood was the blood that was supposed to go above. Now, how much blood did you put above? It says v'kayav l'mayla shir tachtainim v'oid. There was only a small amount of blood that was going below the red line. What you did was you applied above the red line the amount that got mixed in from the lower one, from the oila, plus a little bit. You for sure got a little bit that's supposed to go there. It's satisfactory. Okay, the Gemara says, "Hatachtainim alo like tani," but you told me that it satisfies for the one that's supposed to go below. It satisfied the oila as well. I know you got the chatas above the line, but you said you satisfied the oila, the tachtainim, the one that was supposed to go below the line. But if you already applied all of the lower one above plus a little bit to satisfy the upper one, then maybe you don't have anything that's supposed to go below. Maybe you missed the whole thing. So it says l'shem shirayim. No, you didn't get that correctly. It's not that both sacrifices are satisfied here. The one that's supposed to go above, you put above, and the one that's supposed to go below, you put below. It's not what we're saying. We're saying that the one that was supposed to go above is satisfied because you applied all the one from below above, plus a little bit, so you for sure got that. What about the one that's supposed to go below? They said that's puzzle. So why do you say you're satisfied below? He says, yeah, when you applied it below, you satisfied the shirayim, the remainder that's supposed to go below the line, but not the other sacrifice. We're only talking about one sacrifice to satisfy. New pshat in this brisa. Yeah. Tashma, come and listen. Nasan lamata v'lei nimlach. Let's say the blood was applied below the mixture, right? And he didn't ask what to do. Rabbi Lezer says, don't worry, you can put it above. You apply it above. And if it was supposed to go below, then you just view it like water, like we said. And then you put the again below, he says. And the lower one gets satisfied. Which means the oila gets satisfied. If it's according to Rav Ashi that holds Ein Bila, that it says that it doesn't mix evenly, maybe you did everything here wrong. One that was okay. So Hachanami, the Gemara answers the same thing. It says Beru Bel Yainu. We're talking about where the majority was the one that's supposed to go above, which is the chatas. And you put above the amount of that got mixed in from the lower one plus a little bit, so you for sure satisfied the one that's supposed to go above. But you told me that it satisfies the one that's supposed to go below. Where it says, l'shem shirayim, I didn't mean the sacrifice that's supposed to go below the oila. I meant the shirayim, the remnant of the chatas, the same answer that we gave before. Tashma. I'm going to get one more of these, I think. No. Okay, let's leave it at this. Tashma. We're in the middle of the page. No, the next one doesn't do a l'shem shirayim. There's a few more tashmas, but let's leave it at this tashma. We're halfway down the page. All right.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay.
Okay.
Good day.
It seems so different, no? Like the one is water, the one is blood. One is